This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Most people don't know why the world is in the position that it's in. Most people don't know why what's happening to humans is happening to humans, if they're even asking why. Most humans' perception is pretty myopic. Their awareness is reduced to virtually nothing but their little bubble of reality. I'm going to explain to you why we are in the position that we are in. And this is going to cover everything from human design, human development, and the corruption of every single system that exists on this planet. Specifically the Western world, most specifically America, since this is where I live. But if I have any European brethren that listen, you will probably find that much of what I'm about to say is going to apply in one form or fashion in your European country, in your Western world country. So I'm going to take you down a fairly big rabbit hole. I'm going to cover a myriad of subject matters, some of which you've heard me talk about before, some of which you have not. This is going to be relatively long, and it's going to, for as long as it is, the length is just simply due to the mere body of information. It would be even longer if I was to go into a deep dive for every single subject matter in as much as I could and put together a presentation just for the subject matter, meaning of all of the varying subject matters I'm going to talk about. This is meant to string together a tapestry for you. Most likely this would be most beneficial for people who are in some stage of the awakening process, even down to they're just beginning to wrestle and ask some bigger questions after 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months of the obviousness of this corona hoax and the fact that governments around the world are doing things that are in such defiance of what most people believe. So I'm going to start from what I consider to be the beginning, meaning human design, and then go into human development. And then I'm going to cover religion, politics, the corrupt systems in this world, and how all of this is working as a functional mechanism to effectively dumb us all down, keep us all ignorant, keep us controlled, keep us slave-like, keep us slave-minded, keep us mired in a grotesque level of ignorance. And because there are so many things about humans that humans don't know about themselves, meaning the average person, it is so easy to take advantage of the individual or the masses. What we are seeing is, how should I say this? I consider them to be flaws. So every flaw, every weakness and vulnerability that was engineered, purposefully engineered and designed into the human being is being taken advantage of. And this taking advantage of us thing applies on multiple levels. Remember, we live in a world where we suffer most, and I'm not getting religious on you here, but you'll know where I'm going, you'll get a sense of where I'm going with this. We suffer most from principles and principalities that are not of this world in high places. So that alludes to things that we can't see manipulating this reality, that things that don't exist in this reality manipulating this reality. And if they do exist in this reality, they don't exist in the 3D and somehow have the ability to affect this reality. And because most humans don't understand that, and they don't understand the ways in which they were engineered and weak, meaning in the design of something there are going to be weaknesses and vulnerabilities in it. If you desire to protect and guard it from attack or any other negative thing, you have to understand where the weaknesses are, and you have to strengthen them. You have to put defenses in place to protect the areas that you are weak. And this lends itself to the Socrates quote, "Man, know thyself." And since we don't know ourselves, ourselves, and the people that run this world know human beings intimately. They are able to play us like puppets. They are able to herd us like cattle, corral us like sheep, whatever phrase fits. And they're able to do it relatively unchecked. Relatively probably isn't the word. Wholly unchecked. There is no force on this planet that has pushed back the little guys doing videos. Therefore, we individually are exposing ourselves as the ones that know what's going on. We're the dissonance. We're the ones that they don't want to exist in their world of global domination and control. So, since humans don't know themselves, they're being taken advantage of on levels that are just so grotesque, so repugnant, so vile. It's hard to imagine that we're all waking up in this place and that the vast majority of humankind does not know this. So I'm going to do this monologue to present to you a large slice of the whole pie of what's going on. Will there be pieces missing or that I don't talk about or cover? Most likely, because I don't know all things, and in the process of putting this all down, I've got to be mindful of my time and energy and effort, and in that, some of these subject matters can be vast rabbit holes. I could literally fill an entire wall full of notes of relevant things relevant to a particular subject that could take a multi-part presentation just to explain that subject matter in and of itself, let alone the whole of what I'm going to present to you here. I'm going to say probably many things that you don't agree with. And if you don't agree with it, I would ask you to just take it with a grain of salt and keep on and stay with me here, because it's painting a picture. It's stitching together a tapestry. And I would also challenge you to consider, if you don't believe, think it's true, or any other version of that, things that it is that I'm saying, relevant to those things, ask yourself personally. Get real with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Ask yourself how much you actually know about the particular subject matter that I may speak to that you don't agree with. You don't believe it. You don't think it's true. You've never heard that, or any other version of that. Ask yourself how much research, self-education, autodidactical, is that a word, autodidactical? Self-education you've engaged in yourself to fully understand the subject matter that I'm talking about. And I'm just asking you to give me a chance to present to you the entirety of this tapestry, even if you don't agree with everything. If you're substantially younger than me, if you're younger than me by 10, I'm not saying that people who aren't younger, that are younger than me won't know more than I do, but I've been at this for almost 16, 17 years now, and putting together aspects of what the government's doing, how the law works, how we're getting screwed there, the systems, the corporations, religion, politics, politicians, all of this stuff. So I have an understanding that, well, let's just say those who are in the waking up process do not. So if you don't agree, but you are somehow fitting yourself into the category of somebody who is in some stage of the waking up process, just try to humble yourself. Just try to listen and sit through, even if I say things you don't agree with, because what I'm going to present to you here are objective facts of this reality. Objective experiences that every human being, whether they've directly faced it or not, are subject to. I'm not getting off too much in the realm of speculation and hyperbole or anything like that. I'm talking about objective facts about human design, about human development, about what goes on in this world. Now, I'm going to, how do I say this? What I'm going to express has been taking place in this world in one form or fashion throughout all the iterations of civilizations that we've had since, the days of the Sumerians. This has been something that has reared its head in one form or fashion, died out again, then reared its head. It's constantly with us is the point. This is something that humankind has always known. The way this place works with these rulers, these oligarchs, these bloodlines, these kings and pharaohs, it's us against them, and they see us as their property. They see us as their cattle. They see us as lesser beings than them that they can do with and do to whatever they want. And if you don't believe that, just take a look at what's been going on this planet for the last year and ask yourself why you don't believe that. Ask yourself what makes you think that you're actually free, that you're not actually a slave. See, most people think because I can get in my car and drive wherever I want, I'm not a slave. They think because they can get onto an airplane and fly wherever they may want to, that they're not a slave. We are all debt slaves. And That is what it really boils down to. Now, some people have enough money that their slavery is not as profound in its expression in their daily life. But ultimately, even the rich are slaves to their money. They're slaves to the debt. But I digress. That's not really where I'm going. What I'm ultimately hoping to show you is how human beings and humankind, the entire body of humanity, from the beginning has been played like puppets, treated like cattle, treated like sheep, has been corralled and treated like animals. It's just most people don't see it because their perceptions, their belief systems have been so manipulated and molded for them. Therefore, the lens through which they view the world and their perception is a little out of focus, to say the least. So as I said, every single solitary flaw, weakness, and vulnerability in the human being is being taken advantage of on every level that humans could most likely not fathom. And until we know ourselves and know how we're designed and know how they're taking advantage of us, we're going to continue to be their marionettes, and they'll make us do whatever little dance they want us to do. So without further ado, I'm just going to dive right into it. Human design. Humans are born blank. We're born completely and totally ignorant, and we are born wholly dependent. We are mental, emotional, and psychological beings, and as a side note, those aspects of us, mental, emotional, and psychological, those aspects of us, they must develop and mature. We are emitters of energy. We have pharmacological factories built right into us with drugs that are so powerful, chemicals that are so powerful. DMT, as an example, opens up a gateway to another realm. Then there's adrenochrome, that apparently seems to be the elixir of life, or the elixir of youth, for the evil, pedophile, satanistic, elite power people, the rich, the fucking politicians, governments, and all that other stuff that are in that realm. The drugs that our body produces to dose us with chemicals based off the stimuli that we experience or take into our being are so powerful that, number one, they change our mind, they change our mood, they can change our focus. They can change and modify our behavior. Just like if I was to inject you with a needle full of heroin, it's going to change your behavior because of the power and potency of that drug. If I inject you with a needle full of cocaine, a needle full of methamphetamine, or any other substance of those types, it's going to foundationally and fundamentally change your behavior, your thinking, your energy, and most of the aspects of your being while you are under its influence. Well, we have the chemicals that are built directly into us, or chemicals, these glands that I refer to as pharmacological factories that dose us with chemicals that allow us or cause us, might be a better word, to feel anger, rage, hate, disdain, resentment, and all the chemicals that go along with those emotions, all the way to the other side of the spectrum of love, happiness, joy, and all that other stuff when we're getting lots of dopamine and oxytocin. Because we're mental, emotional, and psychological, and we have these pharmacological factories in us, and we are born ignorant, it makes it really, really easy for those who know more about you to stimulate you in some mental, emotional, or psychological way so that you are feeling a feeling, emoting an emotion, thusly emitting energy. And we also have these, as part of the human design, these compartmentalized minds. The part of you that operates the show, so to speak, where your consciousness and your awareness reside, is in the conscious mind. And inasmuch as humans have been able to figure this out, the ratio for the division of our minds is 5% of our mind is the conscious mind, 95% of our mind is the subconscious mind. And most people don't know that. Most people don't understand that the vast majority of who and what they are is contained within the 95% of their mind that they're not even aware of. And I'm referring to the good stuff and the not so good stuff. The shadow side resides in the subconscious mind and lots of other things. So everything else that we are is contained within the subconscious mind to such a large degree, and we're not even aware of it. And thusly, we're not aware of everything else that we are. Now, in this world, based off of the items that I just said about how we're developed, or how we're designed, the world is designed in such a way that it seeks to and puts forth massive efforts to obtain the attention and the focus of our consciousness from that 5% of us that operates the show for our experience of life. And it seeks to tantalize and titillate the mind with flashing lights, shiny objects, titties, scantily clad women, sex, and all types of other things. Sports, Hollywood, television, music, porn, and on and on and on and on and on. And then while it's got our attention and our focus, many things are happening or not happening. Firstly, we're not becoming aware of the inner self. We're not becoming aware of the inner journey. We're not becoming aware of the subconscious mind, or the 95% of us that we are not aware of, that is the biggest part of what we are. At the same time, the system, the world, this beast system, and all of this shit is seeking to shove its fist down full of its information and perceptions, down the throat of the conscious mind, to get it through the barriers of any filters we might have in the conscious mind and deposit that information into the subconscious mind. Now, our subconscious mind is where a lot of our beliefs reside, a lot of where our perceptions reside. So this is why them getting through the filters of the conscious mind and getting their information into the subconscious mind is the prize. That's what propaganda is all about. That's what indoctrination is all about. That's what marketing seeks to do, is to get information past your conscious filters into your subconscious mind, where it becomes a part of you to such a large degree. There's a reason the Jesuit priest is quoted as saying, I forget his name, you can Google it, "Give me a child until it's 7 years old, and I will give you the man." Because this plays on the next thing that I'm going to explain, human development, but I'm going to segue into that. These people that run the world, 500 years ago is roughly when that Jesuit priest made that statement that has been basically fucking immortalized. They understood back then that if they could mold and get information, if they could get information into the developing mind of a child who's from birth to age 7, that first stage of human development, that what got in there would likely form and mold that child in just about all the ways that matter. So they understood that getting into or depositing what their indoctrination, depositing their information into the mind of the child, because the child is born in the theta state, because as human children born blank and born ignorant, we're wired up to be in that theta state so that we can be indoctrinated by our parents under the guise or the intention, the pretenses of we live in a normal world where parents aren't fucked up and toxified. They actually work to teach and grow up their kids by putting good information into their heads during this developmental phase, so that when consciousness and independence starts to kick in around age 7 or age 8, what the parents have imbued into the mind of the child is good, right information for that now beginning to critically think human to base its thinking, its logic, its processing, its decisions off of, if that makes sense. But in the world that we live in, this process has been so perverted because the world's been perverted, parents have been, hammered on, so their behaviors towards children fucks them up, and all of this horrible negative shit is getting into the subconscious mind. So when you start to think about how the world works, in that it seeks to, and when it's got your attention for people who are sitting and vegging in front of the TV, you see a Geico commercial or any type of other commercial for a drug or whatever they blast across the airwaves 100 times a day. They're doing that because they know that people they have conscious filters. So repetition basically beats down the defenses of your conscious filters and ultimately deposits the information that they want into your mind, into your subconscious, thereby affecting your decision-making processes. Now, when you sit there and think about what I've just explained to you, and the fact that there are evil, wicked people or evil, wicked beings on this planet that are taking the knowledge of that about human beings and basically manipulating the whole of the human species. Because we are mental, emotional, and psychological, and those aspects of us that are intangible, you can't see them or touch them, but they are real, and they must, each in their own right, develop and mature. I mean, think about it. You see somebody who's a mental child or an emotional child that's, 50 years old, 40 years old, 30 years old and acts like a 12-year-old. I mean, you ever see a 70-year-old act like a fucking 12-year-old and have a tantrum and doing all that stuff that kids do? I've seen it multiple times in my life across the gamut of people that I've known. So, as I said, the mental, emotional, and psychological aspects of the human being must develop and mature. Now, when you think about, and I will get into this further on here, but I'm just going to make this a passing point. When you think about the level of abuse that children undergo on this planet, to varying degrees for everybody, but mental, emotional, psychological abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, narcissistic parents, and all those types of things, all of the stuff that is coming at children while they are still developing, while their minds are still fragile, their perceptions are still being formed, there is such a myriad of toxic and abusive shit coming at the human being. It's almost ensuring that we will not properly develop, that we will not develop to be balanced or whole or any resemblance of what a well-raised, well-balanced, well-developed, mature mental, emotional, psychological body of a human being. Most of us have never really truly seen that. And it's because of what it is that they're doing by way of taking advantage of what it is that they know about the human design. I think they know more than even I figured out, and they just don't tell us because they don't want us to know. I hold it very possible that there is far more to us than even we know, and they don't want us to know. They know, because if we knew and we tapped into it, all of a sudden the jig would be up. All of a sudden their game would be over. All of a sudden the control mechanisms on this planet would fucking be torn down brick by brick and reduced to rubble. All of a sudden everything would change. So I think that we are far more than any of us realize. And I think that's why this world seeks to so voraciously grab our attention, grab our focus, keep us focused externally, pervert our minds, pervert every aspect of our society in as much as it can to further pervert the human mind. And basically what that means is when that mind gets old enough to have a child and has a child, a perverted mind, a perverted perception, because of what's been coming at human beings, all of a sudden they begin to do things to their children, for better or for worse, well, generally for worse, that causes the child to become toxified, and this process begins. And once you get that process started and you get this going on with a generation or two or three, it's going to continue to feed on itself. Because we're born blank, because we're born ignorant, we must learn. And when you think about how much the information that's available to us on this planet has been bastardized, watered down, hidden, inverted, pieces of it removed so we can't get the whole picture, something, and in this context, think about it as humans. Maybe they're aliens that look like humans, whatever, the bloodlines, the controllers, those that have been playing the part of ruler, they don't want you to learn. They don't want you to know the truth. The truth is not for all men. The truth is only for those who seek it. And they've made it so that if you want to know the truth, you're going to have to put in a lot of time and make a lot of sacrifices of personal time, chase and skirt time, beer time, and all that stuff to find the truth. And there's no guarantees that you'll find it. The pieces that you find that you think are truth, you may come to find out later on, are not truth, because this world is so laden with misinformation, disinformation, lies, information that's been perfectly and purposefully crafted to be a deception, to keep us running ourselves in circles, never truly finding the truth or finding right knowledge. They don't want us to have right knowledge about what we are. They don't want us to have right knowledge about governing ourselves. They don't want us to have right knowledge about what government is. They don't want us to have right knowledge about anything. All they want to do is to control us at the most foundational levels of our being, our mind, our perception, because that is what drives the human. I don't need guns, bombs, or militaries if I can control your mind. I don't need war if I can control your mind. Because if I can control your mind, your ass will invariably and inevitably follow. And if you are not in control of your mind, if you are not in control of your thoughts, if you are not diligently seeking to truth to be as in control of your perceptions and your beliefs as possible, most people have no idea the lengths at which these people have gone to create and craft a world. The reality that we experience is wholly designed to deceive us in every conceivable way. Now, if you don't know that, or you don't believe that, oh, that's too much, no, it couldn't be. Ask yourself how much time you've taken to figure this out for yourself. As a man who's a year away from 50 years old and who's been at this for 16, 17 years now, this has, and I'm rubbing a few brain cells together. I've got a little bit of intelligence here that I'm using and some analytical skills and the ability to trace problems back to their roots in as much as I can to find the genesis of the problem. So if you don't believe some of what I'm saying, just take it with a grain of salt and look into it. So all of these things are a really big problem for humankind because they don't want us to know about ourselves. And since we so don't, they're able to have their way with us. This society and basically everything in it is doing everything it can, especially when we are young, to program us up nice and early. So this is how our minds are wired by the time we start turning 18, 19, 20, and really having a lot more sex. They're doing everything they can to hypersexualize our societies, and in doing so, it ensures that both men and women will be making a lot of decisions about who they are with, who they procreate with, who they have sex with, and all that other type of stuff. They'll be making those decisions from below the belt, if you catch my meaning. And I don't know what you know, but I know enough to know in my life, any decision that I've ever made that's come from below the belt when it came to a woman has always turned out bad for me. Always. That's the way it works. We're not supposed to be thinking below the belt the way that we are. We're not supposed to be driven by our animal instincts, and that's what they're trying to do. And they're doing this largely, they're dropping the seeds for this when we're in any of the 3 stages of human development. The 3 stages of human, and basically when we are making decisions that are based off of our thinking processes that come below the belt, and this applies equally for men and women. If you don't think women think below the belt, if you're a dude, then you're out of your mind, because they absolutely freaking do. I don't know how to illustrate clear enough how inverted we are when we are making our decisions from below the belt. And when you start thinking about all of the contributing factors, and there's a lot of them, to divorce and single-family homes these days, single-parent homes. A lot of it because of the divorce rate is because of, well, they brought abortion and the pill into our societies. And now that men and women both of us bear equal responsibility for this, because a man doesn't have to worry about having a child with a woman who's on birth control, or for whatever reason would be willing to have an abortion, any more than the woman has to worry about it. Now when you start to realize that over time, generation by generation, there's less and less for us to quote-unquote worry about having sex. So sexual immorality becomes a real thing. And it really starts to erode the mind, the decision-making process, and the behaviors of people. It starts to erode our societies. And I'm not talking from a perspective of some goody fucking two-shoes or anything like that. Trust me, as a dude, I like banging some ass. If I had a steady girlfriend, all that. It's just, I'm looking at the issues, and humans are largely driven by their sexual urges, their sexual desires. And when you look at the rate of divorce in this world because people made poor decisions, because she had great tits and he had great abs, and we got the bangity humpity going on, and Johnny or Sally's now a byproduct of that, and then mom and dad don't like each other, whatever, and they get divorced because they were never meant to be together anyway. But hey, they produced a child, and now the child has to suffer through the life of the single family parent because mom and dad wanted to fuck each other. And how that will translate for each and every individual is a roll of the dice. Some people will come out of that single parent family relatively okay. Others will come out completely fucked up. When you don't have dad to teach the boy how to be a man, when you don't have dad to teach the girl what she should look for and